Rockets and Knicks were in Game 5 when OJ started that fateful drive. His four-way hazard lights were blinking, and no one knew what the juice was thinking.
I've been to Reno, Chicago, Fargo, Minnesota, Buffalo, Toronto, Winslow, Sarasota, Wichita, Tulsa, Ottawa, Oklahoma, Tampa, Panama, Mattawa, La Paloma, Bangor, Baltimore, Salvador, Amarillo, Tocopilla, Barranquilla, and Padilla. I'm a killed. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Crossed the desert bare, man. I breathe the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere.
This is Oversight Live, your advocate for good governance. We're putting the site back in. Oversight. Here's the watcher on the wall, your host, Ben Carpenter.
Sorry. Good evening. It's only supposed to play once. All right. Welcome to Oversight Live. I am Ben Carpenter, and I'll be your host this evening. What is Oversight Live, you might be wondering? Well, we are new. We are addressing a problem that exists in the state of Alaska, our state capital, and the legislature, along with a lot of our government offices, are only accessible by plane or by ferry, and it is prohibitively expensive in both time and money for most Alaskans to visit on a regular basis. Providing oversight of our elected representatives in our government is a greater challenge for Alaskans than most Americans. But Oversight Live is your road to Juneau until a real one can be built. A lack of a road is a major inconvenience, but with today's technology, it's no longer a valid excuse for not knowing what's going on. So we will bring you convenient and relevant content so that you can be informed and educated with the actual truth without traveling to Juneau or having to filter the liberal media bias. You will have my bias, however, and I am unabashedly a limited government, fiscal, and social conservative. You have the opportunity to engage with me. If you're participating in the live show, just text into your chat window there in your social media app. And if you're watching on a recording, send me an email at producer@oversightlive.com, and I will do my best to answer your question. Look, if you've got a great question, don't be surprised if I use it on air. If you've got a good question, it means somebody else has got the same question. So we'll attempt to address them and edify everyone. Here's your opportunity. You can engage with me. You can engage with your neighbors, whoever's logged in, and we can grow our participation in this experiment of self-government. The end result is that every one of us is better prepared to engage with our elected representatives and influence our communities. All right, well, we're going to attempt to have fun doing it. And so let's get started tonight. All right. One of the things that that's been on my mind and something of importance to me is making sure that we improve our elections. And there is a bill that started in the Senate and is now in the House, and it is in the House Finance Committee, of all places. Strange that it's not a finance bill, but it is in finance, and it is being amended. They adopted a committee substitute today. That bill is Senate Bill 64, and we are now operating on version R. And since it has already been through the Senate and it has already made it to House Finance, means it is, once it's done in finance, it is likely going to get scheduled for a vote on the floor. So this will be the, I would say, first substantial election bill to come out in a number of years. And so I thought, look, if it's going to get passed out of the House, or at least if it's going to get onto the vote of the floor of the House, then it's probably going to get passed, and it's already passed the Senate. Since the House adopted a CS, there are some changes between the two versions. the Senate will have, assuming that the House passes this version R, the Senate will either accept their changes or it'll go to conference committee and changes will get ironed out. So that's here in the near future. So we could have our election laws, our election statutes be modified here with this bill. So I think it's important for all of us to understand what's going to happen if this bill passes. Of course, the executive branch has a say in the matter, and I have no idea what the governor feels on the changes that are being enacted in this bill. I can tell you right off the bat, I'm not super happy with the bill. I think it's headed in the wrong direction in a number of areas. But we don't have the legislature. We don't have the members in the legislature that would enact statutes that, it changes to our election system that I would prefer. So the advantages or the things that I see that are happening in the bill that kind of are going my direction, the way my thinking on this matter, may be the best that could possibly be done at this point, because you don't have fiscal social conservatives in the control of the legislature right now. So my bias is not represented in this bill. Of course, I'm not going to like it completely, at least. So I think there are some things that are some advantages, and there are obviously some things that I think some folks are going to be upset about. So how do you figure it out? Okay, so let's just start at the beginning. I'm going to show you how to get. Click on the right thing here. Okay, share my screen so you can see what's going on here. Pick the right one. There you go. All right, get my face up here. That way you know who's who. Yeah, let's go this way because then it'll be a little bigger for everyone. Okay, so what I want to just checking in with y'all on the texts here real quick. All right. What are the good advantages of this bill? We're going to dive into it. I'm going to let you figure out what the advantages or disadvantages are. Okay, so how do you, if you want to look up a bill, how do you find it? Okay, so go to the akleg.gov website, you type in the bill, SB, and the number 64, and then this page comes up, okay? Normally, you can go to this tab right here. Let me make this big so you can see. Normally, you can go to the full text tab, and the text will be listed right here. This is the first version that was introduced in January of 25. This is the most recent version, but it actually isn't the most recent version because House Finance just adopted another committee substitute. So you have to know, at this point, you have to know where to find it. If you go over here to documents and you look at the dates of which the documents are uploaded, you can see that there's a bunch of documents that were uploaded today. One of those documents is a work draft. Senate Bill 64, Committee Substitutes, Work Draft, Compare versus R. Okay, so most people are going to know what that means, but that means you've got a work draft that has got strike-throughs. It's a draft. It's a working copy. So you can click on that. Yeah, we'll click OK. And then it takes you to this draft. And what this is going to do is show you the differences between the bill that the House Finance was sent, which is version U, and this is their committee substitute, which is now version R, as I have highlighted. Okay? So now the full title of the bill is House Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 64, Finance. All right. So this is that's how you get to the bill. All right. All right. This, if we scroll real quick, you'll see it just giving you the scope of the bill. It is, what is that? 18 pages long. All right. So there's quite a bit going on in this bill. What we also have are some sectional analysis that I have pulled up on the other screen that's kind of given the highlights here. So in our first sections 1 and 2 here, what the statute is being amended is tightening the voter registration identification requirements. And I suppose I can probably show you this, make more sense if I share this other document with you. All right, where is it? Oh, that's right. Let's see if that does it. All right. So, whoa. Come on, Ben. Let's move that over here. And we only want one page. We only want one page. Okay, we'll do 2 pages. All right. Okay. So this is a sectional analysis, which is somebody else's attempt at summarizing and explaining the bill. Okay. So it's somewhat easier to understand. I went through and added the yellow highlights because these are things that I thought were pertinent or most pertinent in the time allotted here that we could have a conversation about. Okay. So sections 1 and 2, identification for voter registration. Amends AS 15.07.060. It is tightening voter registration requirements. How is it doing that? Well, applicants registering in person must present one approved form of ID. Okay? Applicable IDs include what you have already always known, but hunting and fishing licenses have been removed from the acceptable IDs list. Tribal identification, other valid photo ID. I don't know whether that's government photo ID or just a valid photo ID. Like, I'm not sure if that's a government ID. Birth certificate, passport, state identification card, and driver's license. Okay. Interesting. If you've got a sports club membership and they've got your photo on it, does that count for a valid photo ID? Would have to go to the statute and look in the bill and see if it spells it out. Okay. Remember, you're looking at a summary, so we could find that answer out. Okay. 4, registration by mail, electronic transmission, or permanent fund dividend application. Identity must be verified using state records or approved identification. Okay. Use of PFD data registration is section 3 in the bill. It limits how the PFD application data may be used by the Division of Elections, allows the division to use PFD data only for voter registration, voter roll maintenance, requires annual report to the governor and legislature describing the number of PFD records shared, effects on voter roll maintenance, and security protections used. Okay, sections 4 through 7 deal with voter roll maintenance. It amends the statute 15.07.130. And we are expanding voter roll cleanup procedures. Okay. Division of Elections must send notices to voters who've not voted or contacted the division in 28 months, had election mail returned, or show indicators of possible residency elsewhere if they're in, other databases or that information becomes known to the Division of Elections. So here's going to define what the indicators of possible out-of-state residency. The division can use records showing the voter registered to vote in another state, obtain a driver's license, register a vehicle, receive public assistance in another state, served on a jury in another state, claimed a homestead exemption somewhere else. Whoa. Response time, voters must respond to this written notice, right? They must respond within 45 days. Otherwise, the registration becomes inactive. Requires, let me see here. Okay. Inactive registrations are canceled after 2 general elections without voter contact. Okay. Some people are going to be like, why do we got to wait two general elections? I don't know. Again, you don't have conservative Republicans or those individuals that want to see to tighten these voter registration to see it as tight as can be. You don't have those people in charge right now. Okay, Section 8, expanded voter roll audit requirements. Okay, audit's good. Requires the Division of Elections to adopt regulations reviewing voter records for deceased individuals, felony convictions involving moral turpitude, duplicate registrations, non-resident voters, data breaches. And it directs that they the division cross-references postal, address databases, motor vehicle records, corrections records, social security data, jury records, national change of address databases. Nothing here is saying that we're getting out of or addressing the ERIC system, right? Requires an annual audit by an outside election expert. And that, as I've already previewed the bill just a little bit, who that is left up to the department or the Division of Elections, and a publication of a report describing vulnerabilities and irregularities needs to be sent to the governor and to the legislature. If a breach of confidential election data occurs, the Division of Elections must notify legislative leadership, publish notice on its website, and describe the breach of its severity. Disclosure may be delayed if law enforcement determines it would be compromised on an investigation. Okay, so got to get done with the law enforcement piece of that before you make it public information. What's interesting is if you've notified the legislative leadership, I wonder if that means you've notified all legislators if the message never gets received to the... But if you're noticing it on the public website, then it's all public data anyway, so probably not a big deal. Normally, you send contact. If you want to address the legislature, you send it to your presiding officers, and the message gets disseminated. Okay, this bill's going to create a rural community liaison. Requires the Division of Elections to employ a rural community liaison who will work with tribes and municipalities, improve access to early and absentee voting, ensure rural precinct staffing, which has been a problem. I'm not sure how one liaison is going to help with staffing in areas, but maybe it's, people in rural communities don't get reminded that, hey, we're going to be voting in 90 days and we need to start thinking about hiring people or finding volunteers. Maybe that's the case. Maybe some leadership needs to be applied there. Section 11, campaign finance, quote, true source definition. So the statute's being amended to clarify that true sources of campaign contributions, and it's defining that that's the original individual or entity providing the funds. So membership organizations may still be considered if the source. So if you've got a larger organization and you're donating to that organization, individual contributions are less than $2,000 per member annually, then the membership is still the true source. So you would have to spend more than $2,000 annually in individual contributions before you would become the true source. Okay, sections 12 and 13, polling place equipment and regulations. Updates the statutes governing voting booths, polling ballot boxes, polling place equipment, removes detailed design requirements, and allows the Director of Elections to set standards by regulation. Okay, that I would have to go to sections 12 and 13 to figure out what exactly the details are in that, because this is a summary. Again, I didn't highlight that because to me it didn't jump out as one of the bigger issues, but maybe it is. Okay, identification required to vote. I got this all highlighted because I thought this was a big deal. Okay, we're amending a statute 1515-225. Requires voters to present one of the following IDs at the polls. Okay. Removes the ability to vote using documents such as utility bills, paychecks, bank statements. Reporting transparency. When the division releases unofficial results, it must also publish updated vote tabulations, which precincts have reported, absentee ballot counts, early vote totals, questioned ballot counts. Yeah, as a past candidate, this is going to be helpful. It will at least be gee whiz before the election, the official election results come out, and even before the election night unofficial result come out, is to help with understanding kind of what's happening in the voters in your precinct, in your district, or statewide for that matter. Just help understanding what's going on within the election. This is, let me just double check here. Election reporting transparent releases unofficial results. It must also, so we are releasing unofficial results periodically leading up to the day of the election. And then after polls close, there are unofficial results released as well. So I think this probably, I'd have to check the statute or the bill, but I think this probably applies to early voting as well as, well, it does. It has to, because his early vote totals. Okay. Compensation of election workers allows the director of elections to set compensation for election board members without using formal regulation. And then there's an absentee voting procedures change. The ballot materials requires secrecy sleeve and a postage paid return envelope. Absentee voter identification. First-time voters registering by mail must provide voter identification. Overseas ballot deadline must arrive 10 days after the election day. Again, I'll hold my comment for a minute. Ballot review timing. Absentee ballot review begins 12 days before election day. State Review Board authorizes the State Review Board to count absentee ballots, question ballots, ballots cured after deficiencies. This is interesting here, right? I'm sorry. Ballot tracking system. This is definitely new. Requires the Division of Elections to implement an online ballot tracking system. So here we're talking about absentee or mail-in ballots, right? Because you wouldn't track the one on election day. Voters must be able to confirm ballots were sent. Confirm ballots were sent. Oh, okay. I see what the summary is saying. If you request an absentee ballot, you have to confirm that it was sent to you. Track the delivery, confirm the ballot receipt, verify whether the ballot was counted, and receive instructions to cure rejected ballots. Interesting. Okay. The system must use multi-factor identification. So this is obviously an online ballot tracking system, so they're going to use multi-factor identification to try to cut down on or ensure that the person who has business with the information is the actual person. Okay, so Section 24 creates a ballot curing process. Again, this is not for your ballot that you go on election day. This is for mail-in ballots or absentee ballots. Creates a process allowing voters to cure rejected ballots. Okay. If a ballot is rejected for a missing signature, missing witness, or insufficient identification, the division must notify the voter by email, phone, text message, or mail. And we'd have to check to see if that's an and/or. The summary does not say. Voters have 10 days after election day to cure the ballot. So right there, you know that you're never going to have, really, you're not going to know who wins an election until after all the voters who voted absentee have a chance to fix their votes. Like, this is crazy. Again, the only thing that they should be able to fix at this point let me just check here. Voters must be able to confirm the ballots were sent, receive instructions on how to cure a rejected ballot. So if it's rejected for a missing signature, missing witness, or insufficient identification, those are the only three things that they should be able to change. It doesn't say here that they can change their vote. Okay? So I think that if they just want their vote counted, period, you don't have to worry about them being able to change their vote. Got 10 days to get whatever vote you submitted by mail, 10 days to get it cured or fixed if you didn't sign it, you didn't have a witness sign it, or you didn't have the proper identification when you mailed it in. I personally see some risk here because at this point, any ballot that gets mailed to a particular address, whether the person lives there or not, could get sent back in without signature, without a witness signature, and without identification. And that ballot is then with the system. So now all you have to do is make sure that somebody has got multi-factor identification to be able to get in and get access to that ballot. Seems like it might be a hard hurdle, but I don't know. I don't know how hard it will be to bust through that. Whoops, let's see here. Section 25, clarification of vote buying laws. Okay, so here we're going to stiffen some penalties. Defines items not considered unlawful inducements, including campaign materials of nominal value, food at civic events, childcare while voting, free transportation to polls, postage paid envelopes, expanded election interference crimes, adds a new criminal offense for tampering with absentee ballot envelopes or hacking election machinery, altering election software or tabulators. And Section 27 creates an election official misconduct crime, creates an offense if an election official discloses election results or confidential election data before polls close. I wonder how that works with unofficial results. Yeah, so obviously there's a question in my mind. If you've got a requirement for the information to be given out in unofficial results, how does that jive with the election results? Like you can't give out official results until, a couple weeks after the election. So disclosing election results before polls close would have to be on that day, right? On the election day. So anyway, there's a question that I would have about Section 27 as to how does that jive with the previous section that said that we're going to be giving more information out for early voting and unofficial results. Okay. PFD sharing, PFD data sharing with elections divisions requires the Department of Revenue to provide the Division of Elections with monthly PFD application data, including. Okay, so we consider this greater voter integrity here to address what we might perceive as risk with PFD data. But now the Department of Revenue has to do work monthly. Mailing address, residency information, contact information. So you're increasing bureaucracy here in order to make sure that you've got election integrity on PFD applications. So you could just do away with the automatic PFD registration and require people to go register to vote if they want to vote. But we're not, those people are not in charge. Okay, requires security protocols and annual reports regarding data transfer. Okay, this is interesting, and we'll jump to this in a minute, but this section is real short. It just says it repeals this statute, and I have yet to understand why that is in. It may be because of other things that other portions of the bill are duplicative, and now we don't need this, but this needs to be answered. The question needs to be answered, and we'll jump to that. We'll come back to it. Section 31, early voting expansion study. Any good bill in the legislature has got to require a study. requires the Division of Elections to submit a report recommending ways to expand early voting in rural communities and low-income neighborhoods. So we don't want rich people expanding voting. We want to study how we can get more rural communities and low-income voters. Oh, can you say, we really don't trust you? We really think you're stupid. You need more time, and we need to study how we can encourage you to get to vote because we think you're dumb and you can't figure it out yourselves. Like, used to be that people could figure out how to vote on voting day. Now we've got a society that can't figure out how to vote on voting day. Really? I don't think so. I think we've just given them so many different reasons to not vote that they just are apathetic. Okay, applicability and conditional effect. This is interesting because this ties into another conversation that I was having about a completely unrelated topic. So this new criminal provision only applies to offenses occurring after the bill's effective date, which is what it has to have. Can't be retroactive. Ballot tracking and ballot curing provisions only take effect if both are enacted. Okay. So if you want to have a conversation, about a fiscal plan, and people say, well, there's too many bills, and you can't get these bills to be passed at the same time, and it's just too complicated. This is the exact technique that you could add into bills that say, look, we recognize that you've got to have this bill or this provision, and you got to have this other provision, and if you don't pass both of them, then neither of them pass. And it is binding. It is a legal way to do statute change in our legislative process. So this whole argument that you can't pass a fiscal plan because there's too many bills and it just doesn't work is complete nonsense. You can pass a spending limit and a tax, or you can pass a spending limit and a statutory change for the PFD. You can pass whatever combination of bills you want with conditional language. Here we're doing it with voting registration. And you got to have both ballot tracking and ballot curing provisions if either of those are going to take effect. And your campaign finance provisions won't take effect until after the election, January 2027. All right. Everything else takes effect the 26th. Okay, so now let's jump to real quick. Okay, before I jump there, I'm going to catch up with questions that you all might have here. Okay, let me see here. What about these high oil prices going on? Well, that means that we don't have a budget problem anymore. Okay, what are the good advantages of this bill? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on what you've heard so far. No ballots should be accepted after Election Day. I agree with you. There are not enough people like you and I in the legislature to make that happen. Christopher, when I go to vote, the poll workers know me by name. I never show them any ID. Yeah, it's the same way with me. And I'm confident that the statutes allow for personal recognition. And as long as there's personal recognition, it's a valid way to vet somebody or give them know that they can have a ballot. Okay, there is a whole lot of spam right here. I don't know what this all means. All ballots should be in by Election Day, not counted, not weeks. I agree. Howdy to Brian. Problem with voting in Alaska, hardly anyone votes anymore. Yeah, we do have voter turnout issues. Okay, so let's jump to, let me stop sharing that. And okay, let's go jump to the statute and look at. So I want to show you something, how I do this. Oh, I think I have to fix this first. Let's drop that. Go back here. And I want to show this entire window here with you. That's not what I want. Okay, 1 second. So sometimes it's kind of confusing when you're looking at a bill and you don't know, like it references a statute that you don't have. Oh, I know what I did. There we go. This is what I want. It references a statute that you don't know what the statute says. Okay. So for example, in our other example of the section that we said we needed to go look at, section 30. Okay. So we're going to scroll the bill to section 30. Here we go. 25, 27, 29, 30. Okay. So what I told you was there's a repealer and it just repeals, right? So here's section 30. It says AS 1507.64G is repealed. Okay. So you have no idea what that means. Looking at the bill, you have no idea what it means. It doesn't say anything other than that. So you actually have to go to the current statutes to find out what it is they're repealing. Could be good, could be bad. You don't know. Could be indifferent. So that's where you go to your legislative website. And if I back us up here, you put in the statute that you're looking for, .064, and then you search, and it'll take you right to that statute. Okay. So this is subsection G is repealed. Okay. So here's the statute. Here is subsection A. And now we just need to scroll down and find G. F, G. Okay. So notwithstanding A through F of this section, the director may substitute a mailing address provided by the voter of the Permanent Fund Dividend Program under AS 4323 as the mailing address for the voter on the registration procedures specified in regulations of the directors necessary to maintain accuracy of voting registers. Okay. So it must be that the statute change with regard to Permanent Fund Dividend Program in other sections duplicated this or is doing away with it. I just double checking here. 064G is what was repealed, and that is G. Okay, so it's saying that the director can substitute the address on the Permanent Fund Dividend Program application or what's on record for the mailing address for the voter on the registration records. And this is removing that. So that's interesting. I wonder how that applies if somebody's being automatically registered. Yeah. Okay. So, I would have to have the department or somebody explain to me why this is necessary, because it seems to me that if you're being automatically registered, maybe in one of these sections here, it already tells them what to do, that the registration is taking the automatic registration when you apply for a PFD is actually providing the voter address. Anyway, I would have to ask why we're getting rid of that, because it's not perfectly clear to me. It sounds like it's like you're not going to use the address that is on the PFD application for the address for voter registration, So then if you're automatically registering them to vote, how would you know what address they're at? So something doesn't, I would bet you that the problem is right here, that I'm not understanding it. That's probably what the situation is. Okay, so interesting. And here's on a side note, just want to show you this bill, the way that it's written here, where you've got underlined and blue and red, is not a common way to see bills. Usually you look at a clean version that just has the changes. It doesn't have the previous version. So this is when you are looking at a work draft, this is the benefit that you have with that. So you can see what used to be there at the same time as you're looking at what the proposed new verbiage is. I find these helpful because otherwise you'd have to have both the bills sitting side by side, the old version and the new committee substitute, and then try to figure out which ones, what got moved out of the old version and what's in the new version, right? And it can be a challenge sometime. So work drafts that have strike throughs and color changes are handy if you can get your hands on them. Again, you don't see them in the official basis record of the bill because they're just going to publish the final version that the committee adopted. But if you go to the documents section for that bill, sometimes you can find that draft version. The only way those documents get in that document section, let me go there and I'll show you what I'm talking about because you probably don't know what I'm jabbering on about. So let me zoom out here. Okay, so you go to the bill, and this documents tab is what I'm referring to. So all of these documents that get added here, they get added because the staff for whoever's carrying this bill, whoever wants to see the bill passed, they add these documents in. So it is a deliberate effort for them to add these documents in. These happen to be House Finance documents. And so maybe it's the House Finance staff that did that. But anyway, the staff has to add those documents in special. They don't automatically get added. The full text document here, that automatically gets added. The staff don't have to do that, to the best of my knowledge. I do not believe the staff has to do that. The official document that the committee adopts and is working on, the permanent staff knows that needs to get added in there. But over here, this is a choice, and I should make this clear. These documents are a choice by staff of legislators carrying bills as to what information they want to put out to the public. Sometimes you got a lot of information there. Sometimes you don't have a lot. Okay. Just out of curiosity, this is scheduled for House Finance for the 12th. It was just heard today. So there'll be one more meeting at least it's scheduled for one more meeting on the 12th. And since it's not scheduled after the 12th, doesn't mean that it won't be heard in finance again, but it could. They would just have to notice it 5 days in advance. It also could mean that they're planning on passing it out and it'll be on the floor sometime after that. So, you want to get rid of automatic registration with the PFD? You got to have different people in the legislature. Or it is by statute. So you could do a citizens initiative and put it on the ballot yourself. Well, with enough like-minded Alaskans. We could repeal that. It's a statute and it can be repealed by voter initiative. Don't expect the legislature to deal with that anytime soon. You've got too many Democrats that want as many people get registered, whether they're intent on voting or not, to be registered. Yeah, I firmly believe that we need it isn't just about which ways we can vote. It is, what do we do to make elections where people trust them again? Whatever that is, that's what we need to do. Even if it's for a period of time, it's showing that we can have trust in our elections. And I don't know how else other than people in the communities need to show up and work the polling stations so you know that there's nothing nefarious going on. And that message gets out that, yeah, it was a trustworthy election. And we do it by paper. That way there's always a hard copy that can be audited. I don't know how else to do it. Like, it seems awful simple that for 250 years we've been able to figure out how to vote in various jurisdictions throughout the United States, large and small, lots of populations, small populations. We've been able to figure it out for 250 years. And now we have to expand all of these, different ways so that people have got way different options, and it just increases the opportunity for malfeasance. And so people will throw their hands up in the air and say, you know what, it doesn't really matter. My vote doesn't matter. Well, I think that's a lie and you're buying into it. But addressing that problem is the problem. Like, we have to address that a certain way, and adding more statutes and clarifying how many days you have before and after the election, and all of that stuff just confuses people and confuses the issue and makes it harder. Doesn't improve the trust in the election, in my opinion. Tawny, you're absolutely right. Statute does allow for personal recognition. That's if I didn't say that, or if I misspoke, that's what I meant to say. And that's the way it has been. This bill doesn't address that or anything like that. Okay, that's what I wanted to bring to you tonight, was this bill. So, depending on what you think about the bill, now's the time you get a hold of your legislator, right? So I can show you, and I am sure that the people who are watching, who are participating live here, y'all know who your legislators are, right? I mean, I'm probably not talking to. So if you want to know who your senators are, this is how you find out who your senators are. And you have to know what your district is, right? Except you can go down here and find who represents me, right? And my address is public all over the place. Shall I do this? Just as an example. See if it works. There it is. That's how you find out who your legislator is. Type in your physical address, and your legislators will come up, and then you can click on them, and it'll go to their page, and now you have contact info. There's a phone number. There's an email address. There's another phone number for office. And that's the office in Juneau, right? Because they got two different offices, one in Juneau and one where they live. There's the Kenai office. Don't call the one where they live, because they're not there. Now, if they're smart, they forwarded their phones, so they'll get the call. But anyway, that's how you find out how you where your legislator is. All right. Very good. Unfortunately, my legislators don't represent me on the manner they should. Well, that is unfortunate for you. All I can say is don't get weary in trying to find somebody who will represent you. I do too. For those that are watching, we are going to vote on whether or not we want to continue with ranked choice voting. It will be on the ballot. You will vote yes to repeal or no to not repeal. Those will be your options. My recommendation would be vote yes to repeal. All right, folks, that's gonna wrap it up tonight for the show. Important bill. I think, let me just say that I think some of the provisions there with regard to collecting information, if we're going to have, I'm pulling up the note here. If we're going to have absentee ballots and they're gonna allow for carrying of ballots, then creating a ballot tracking system makes sense to me, because now you have more data that you're able to then scrutinize after the election. I wish we would go to just a absentee only for specific reasons, like you're going to be traveling, right? Or whatever, there's an emergency or that type of thing, but not just as a matter of fact, you just, no fault, I want to vote by mail and that's the way I'm going to do it. I don't like that. I think that's opens the problem. The other piece of this too is having ballots mailed out to anybody that's asked for it year after year without them having to ask every year. I hope that's not the case, but I think it is, because I know people who are receiving absentee ballots at their location that are addressed to somebody that doesn't live there anymore. So somehow, sometimes somebody asks for an absentee ballot and they're stuck in the system. Now it just kicks out absentee ballots. Anyway, okay, good call here. I'm not in the interior. I'm not following this as closely as maybe I should. So you're saying we have to vote to keep the tax cap in the interior. Okay. Makes sense. If you don't have a tax cap, then you're going to get more taxes. Christopher, you're welcome. Don't accept any ballots after Election Day, period. Yeah, I think that's what you mean. Don't accept. And I agree. I think you got to have your ballots in and you just have to be proactive. I mean, don't we want to have, like, maybe this goes into the parenting 101, the differences between parents, the differences between adults. Like, I would rather us live in a society where there is an expectation that all of the adults can figure out how to get their ballot in by Election Day if they want it counted. If the pain of not getting it counted causes you to get it in on time next year, then isn't that what we want? Like, we want to incentivize good behavior. All these changes are like, it doesn't matter whether you're lazy. We can find a way for you to vote. Like, yeah, but like, the expectation of being an adult in our country is that you're competent. Competent people should vote. If you're not competent, does the majority really want you to vote? I mean, you go back and this is serious, right? You go back in the day, not everybody could vote. Landowners could vote. That got changed. I'm in agreement. Landowners should not be the only people voting. Back in the day, only men could vote. Women could not vote. We got rid of that. I am in agreement. Women should be able to vote just like men. Okay? Where I kind of draw the line is a difference between stupid people or lazy people and proactive and responsible adults. Okay? So if you're lazy, I'm not sure you really should be voting. Like, there is just this level of expectation in our society where we're expecting people to be competent. And if you can't figure out how to get a ballot in on time, this goes to the whole thing of with this ID and the SAVE Act at the federal level. If you get married, ladies, and you can't figure out how to keep an ID with your name on it, there's some pretty serious ramifications for screwing up voting for somebody or voting for something that you might be on the ballot. I mean, if you can't figure out how to keep an ID and work your way through the process to get an ID, you can't figure that out. Do we really want you voting? I think it's valuable to have an expectation in society that we act like adults. That there's like a minimum level of behavior here that we should have some competence. Anyway. Okay, Craig, you're saying run through the education tax bill sometime this week. Okay, I'll take a look at it. I don't think it's going anywhere. If I read Dunleavy's read between the lines, I don't think he's going to sign a tax bill, or he will veto it, and I doubt there's votes to override that at this point. But yeah, we can go through that. I'll pull it up this next week, or I'm sorry, this later this week, and we'll look through it. Lisa, is that number 2? You're a second tally mark for looking through the education bill. All right, we'll do it. HB 152. All right. Trying to find this one from Christopher. They write the way they write up ballot on anything, you really need to read the wording correctly. Yeah, you're talking about the initiatives on the ballot. Yeah. And what's crazy. So the ranked choice voting ballot initiative verbiage that's going to be on the ballot is in lawsuit right now. So the process, as I understand it, this is crazy. This had nothing to do with today's thing, but the lawsuit, as I understood it, or what has happened, as I understand it, is a citizen said, hey, we want to repeal ranked choice voting. They go engage in the process. They go out and get signatures. The wording of the thing that they're asking people as to whether they want to vote on is on the document that you ask people to sign for, so people can read what it is that's going to be on the ballot. That's already been blessed off on by the Attorney General through the process, right? So now you get enough signatures, you submit all your signatures, comes back and says, okay, you've got enough signatures, we're going to put it on the ballot. And now the Attorney General changes the verbiage on the what's going to be on the ballot. And so that strikes a lawsuit from Scott Kendall and his group that are pro ranked choice voting. So that they file a lawsuit. Well, or threaten to file a lawsuit. No, I think they filed a lawsuit. So Scott Kendall and the Attorney General meet and work out some kind of deal, and the verbiage gets changed to make Scott Kendall happy. And now the people who went out and got the signatures for the ballot initiative, they're mad. They're like, why did you change? Why do you guys get to decide when the people who signed the petition to get it on the ballot, they signed their names on the question that was right before them, that was already approved by the Attorney General? Why do you change it after people have already signed it? Tens of thousands of people have already signed that this is what they want to see on the ballot. So now those people, the people that are for the ballot initiative, for repealing ranked choice voting and did the work to get it on the ballot, are suing the state to get it back to what it was. Like, how can one Attorney General just know better than all of the people that were that signed their names on this is what we want to see on the ballot? Bonkers. Good evening, Representative McCabe. Thanks for joining us tonight. The legislators have already stated you cannot have direct funding for education, so that education tax bill will be dead on arrival in the writer that bill has been made. You know, I heard, where did I hear this? This might have been second or third hand. I don't know. Point is, I think the impetus behind this is NEA or teachers unions or teachers, or maybe it's just constituents of these particular individuals are saying, hey, we need to have more education funding, so we need you to put a bill forward. I don't think there's any impetus in the legislature right now, and if Kevin McCabe's still around, he can help out. I don't think that there's enough energy in the legislature for more education funding right now. Now, that being said, the price of oil is going up, at least temporarily. We will likely have more money this next fiscal year. You do the math. Is there enough for more education spending? I mean, obviously some pro-education funding people are going to say, yes, we got more money. Let's spend it. Hey, there's my honey. She chimed in. Yes, if you're not competent, please don't vote. If you want adult agency, learn to do adult things. That's exactly right. And not only are we putting the burden on you, I think society should have that expectation. Like, you're responsible. Figure out how to vote. Figure out how to keep an ID. I have a hard time keeping a box of Girl Scout cookies one day. Yes, but luckily you don't have to have Girl Scout cookies to go vote, just to stay thin. Wait, did that make sense? Eat them slowly or don't eat them at all if you want to stay thin. That's your responsibility. But if you've got Thin Mints, or if you got them formerly known as Samoas, the coconut ones, those are the ones that are hard to, that don't hang around in this house very long. Who funds Kindle? He is in the left, on the left. So wherever the left gets their money, probably from out of state. It could be from local here in state. Lisa, you said that the oil hit a high today and then dropped. Oil $3.75 at Sourdough in Illinois in Fairbanks. I bet that means something to you interior folks. Are you saying that's the price of gas is $3.75? Oil is $3.75. I don't know what you mean there. Brian, doesn't everybody have a honey? No. Okay, how is this a serious question? How can Florida get 22 million votes, all accounted for, and results by election day, and we in Alaska, yeah, it is a serious question. We can't figure it out. Yeah, exactly. I guess it goes back to the expectation, right? If you had an expectation and you set up the systems that we just said, hey, you're going to get you're going to get your votes in, and we're going to count on one day, and we're done. We're not stretching this out for a month. We'd figure it out, but I don't know. I am more and more convinced that the population of Alaskans that like to be taken care of is growing. The population of Alaskans that are or were independent and would rather do things themselves is shrinking. And that doesn't bode well for the state. Oh, thank you. Heating oil. I should have known that. Heating oil was $3.75 or $3.25, whatever you said it was. Is that a lot for the interior? I don't know. Christopher says, send the Thin Mints over here. Yeah. Yeah, Thin Mints are good to go. I like those Thin Mints. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us tonight. If you're listening to the podcast or the recording of this, and you got questions or comments, send them to my email, producer@oversightlive.com. Again, if you're new to the show, it helps out greatly if you hit that subscribe button. We got to get the numbers up. So hit the subscribe and help me spread the word. If you got friends that want to know what's going on in the legislature, all they gotta do is jump in here and say, hey, I have a question, or can you do this bill? I don't understand this bill. And we'll take it up, because one of these days this week, we're going to look into the education bill because you asked for it. Where else are you going to get that special attention? Yeah, inflation's a bear. I used to fill up my heating and oil tank for $150 back in '98. Now it's over $1,000. Yeah. Yeah. Gone are the days where Alaska, full of natural resources, has inexpensive resources, natural resources, the products of, right? It's crazy. We can get that back that way, but it takes the will. Unfortunately, I think there's more and more in the legislature that want to get rid of the oil production in the state and just live off permanent fund earnings. That's scary. It's possible, and it's scary. All right, guys, have a good evening, and we will see you tomorrow night. Thanks again for joining in. Really appreciate it.